My name is Sophia. I live in Cape Town, South Africa.
My name is Storm and I live in Cape Town, South Africa.
Sophie and Storm, can you tell me, is philosophy with children different to what you normally learn about in class?
Yes.
Yeah, in class we just learn about like maths, natural science and all those other subjects. Philosophy of children, you get to ask more questions more freely and yeah.
Thank you. Good. Sophia, can you tell me how philosophy with children is different from what else you learn at school?
Because it's like you get to experience different things and you can ask way more questions than teachers would ask you in class.
And why is that?
Because you're learning about different things.
Fantastic, thanks.
Yes, my name is Mordecai and I live in Cape Town, South Africa.
My name is Jack and I live in Cape Town, South Africa.
Mordecai and Jack, I worked with you last year doing philosophy with children, and we did lots of really interesting picture books. For example, like this one called Tidy. Do you remember that?
Yes, very well.
Good. Do you want to tell us something about what makes philosophy with children? Why was it special for you? Why was it interesting to you? Okay, Mordecai?
Because we got to read books with friends and it would help us to learn lots of cool things.
Cool things like what, Mordecai?
Like you're not tied up too much.
Exactly. Why? What was the problem? I'll ask you in a sec, Jack. Why do you not need to tidy up too much? What's wrong with
If you
that?
tidy up too much, you might get obsessed with it and start tidy upping other things that don't need to be tidied up.
Exactly. Jack, do you want to add to that or make another comment?
I'd like to say that philosophy is an important thing, and without philosophy, the whole world wouldn't be curious. That's why philosophy is very important in our lives.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thanks. Was there a time that you used a community of philosophical inquiry with your group Common Propaganda? Can you tell us why you chose that?
Yes, so Common Propaganda is a community and network of young artists and activists who are trying to create spaces for the youth to engage with social, political discourse in a creative way using aesthetics and collaborative knowledge-making processes. So in these images, we use the community of philosophical inquiry to discuss and interrogate the impacts of climate change on our society today. And I thought the community of inquiry would be an appropriate approach to this engagement because it allows for in-depth reflection but also non-judgment and a egalitarian space to share our individual experiences as well as concerns or thoughts on the issues at hand.
George, you were at that inquiry. What was your experience of the inquiry, and what can you share with us about why a philosophical inquiry works in some ways differently to other ways of thinking together with people?
I think one of the things that really stood out for me was the challenge that it made to some of the other ways that we've been taught to communicate, especially when we're philosophizing, which we think to be this academic thing, and so often it ends up being a debate or a fight. And the difference for me was it's kind of a careful way of communicating, but also it moves away from just the individual and what I have to say and making sure that you know what I know and proving what I know and more about what we can all know together. And so it is a community. And I think I saw the challenges that brought up in myself and the sort of inclinations that I was fighting within me, or not fighting, but the challenge that I felt within myself, but also observing it in other people and the inclinations that we all have to want to be the center or be whatever, and just how this process allows us to kind of challenge that and work differently.
Thank you. Kai, can you tell us more about how you learned about philosophy with children?
Well, I first was exposed to it in primary school in grade 2. We had weekly sort of communities of inquiry, and it really has helped change the way that I think and engage with other people and ideas specifically, and how a discussion space and other people in a community can be used in a different way, and then not always taking things for granted and ideas and questioning what people always just accept. I feel like that's an important skill to have when it comes to sort of unpacking the world and your understanding of the world and how it can grow and evolve every day. I feel like it's been very instrumental in how I view it and how specifically I engage with a more empathetic view of other people's feelings and their thoughts, as well as keeping my own in perspective and making sure that my own views are tolerant and are equitable in the world. And yeah, I feel like communities of inquiry and philosophy for children has been really important in that discovery.
Thanks. So I learned about philosophy with children and Matthew Lipman's philosophy for children in 2011 in South Africa at a conference. And it has changed the way I think about children and childhood and questioning specifically. And so I'm very grateful for what I've been able to learn from children, because I've listened to them differently, and actually adults as well, because the community of philosophical inquiry as a pedagogy allows transformative classroom practices. And as a teacher and a lecturer, that's been really integral to my learning, as I have changed the way I have approached teaching and listening and questioning and philosophizing. And so I've enjoyed being able to be in spaces where disagreement is normalized, where other people's ideas can be listened to differently, and where being able to leave a conversation with more questions, or to leave an inquiry with more questions, is generative and not something that is just born out of frustration, but is a place to... I've also learned how to think differently, and for that I'm really grateful for the work that he started many, many years ago.